Okay, and then we have this other example, or this other weapon that the investor can, or the high-frequency trader can bring to bear, which is the flash order. Now, recently we've heard that the SEC is going to ban flash orders. We also heard that two of the exchanges that use these, BATS and NASDAQ, say that they're actually going to ditch flash orders. Okay, now not every exchange, and there are obviously several exchanges or a number of exchanges in the US equity markets. Not every exchange uses flash. The New York Stock Exchange, for example, does not. Okay. So how does flash actually work? Well, here's our exchange. Now, whenever an order comes into an exchange, the exchange is required to send that order out to the wider market. Okay? Now, it can either pass it directly through so that the person who has made the order gets the best price. Okay, so here are our exchanges. Okay? Or it can do what a number of these exchanges do, which means it can flash the order to its members. Okay, so here in this exchange, we've got a bunch of guys, or a bunch of investors, male and female, of course, and in comes the institutional investor's order, which is, say, 100 shares at $25. That's what he wants to buy. Now, if the exchange uses flash, just for a fraction of a second, like half a second, 500 milliseconds or less, it flashes that trade or that order to all of the people in the exchange. And they have the option, they have a half-second option, okay, a split-second option to exercise, okay, to fill that trade. They can sell this guy 100 shares at $25. And if they can't, the share, or if they decide not to, then after half a second, it goes wide to the rest of the market, and then he's going to get the best price. He's going to get matched, or he's going to get offered something close to what he's looking for. So clearly there's an advantage to the people who are in this exchange. They're getting to see this guy's price before anybody else does. Now, a lot of people might say, well, that's unfair on the investor, because if there was a better price out in the wider market, he's not going to get that because these guys are going to fill this. Okay? Other people would say, well, it's unfair for the people in the market because then they can't execute on this trade. They're getting preferential treatment, if you like, in this transaction. And that's why a number of people have gotten so up in arms about flash trading and have decided to make a move to banning it. But it looks like the exchanges are actually going to get in front of this move and actually get rid of it themselves. Just to give you a bit of background, a good way of thinking about this is in the old days when you had an exchange, people are standing there in front of a computer and the order would come in onto the floor. You had a bunch of specialists there on the floor. A specialist would pick up the phone, hear what the order was, 100 shares at 25 in GE. So he'd turn around and shout to the floor, 100 shares at 25 in GE, and then he'd enter it into the computer so it goes wide. So obviously all the people who hear his shout around him on the floor get to hear about that trade before he gets it into the computer. And that's kind of the same thing that's happening here with these flash orders. But people are talking about banning this, so we may not see it anymore. But it clearly is a formidable weapon in the arsenal, because if you are a high-frequency trader, then you can transact very, very quickly on this and make money in other parts of the market. So why does a high-frequency trader get involved in high-frequency trading. It sounds like a very, very expensive business, and also politically a little bit unsafe these days. Very expensive because the computers are expensive. You know, the people that create these programs are extremely expensive. The real estate down beside the exchanges is obviously very expensive. So it's not a cheap business. But there's a reason for doing it, and it's called the liquidity rebate. Okay? The liquidity rebate. And what this is a little fee that gets paid to you as a trader if you take part in the exchange. Okay? So if you are one of these guys that's buying and selling in the exchange, every share, okay, that you put an order in, whether it's a buy order or a share order, every single share you get paid around 1/4 of a cent, a fraction of a cent. So there's a real advantage there if you are doing high volume, okay, and involved in large blocks of trades, because you're going to get paid for every single share that you trade. So even if you make a loss on the individual trades, you can actually make money from the rebates from the exchanges. There's huge amounts of money to be made here, so it means that a lot of these high-frequency traders are getting involved solely for that reason. That's certainly one of the charges. Now, of course, if you're getting people involved in an exchange purely to trade, as opposed to actually take a position or act as a broker, but you're just doing it to trade for the liquidity rebate, then people will say, well, you know, that's not right. That means that you know, people, they're just getting involved in this for the one reason, and it could really skew the market. Of course, the traders would say, well, we're providing liquidity, and we're providing a real service. We're on either side of a trade, so if you're a member of the exchange, you're almost guaranteed a market, or in fact, you are guaranteed a market. That would be their argument. But there's a lot of controversy about this. A lot of people say, well, you know, if you are an individual investor, and you're trying to get involved in this exchange, and you've got this guy on the other side, okay, you are at a distinct disadvantage. I mean, think about me. If I'm there with my little PC and I'm trying to sell my 1,000 shares of GE or buy 1,000 shares of GE, you know, how can I hope to stack up against this guy with all of the computer programs and the speed and all the rest of it that he has? You know, if I'm trying to get a fair price for my GE shares, or if I'm trying to get GE shares at a decent price, you know, I'm at a considerable disadvantage. And by the time I'm done, by the time I've actually laid my money down on the table, it could leave me very badly needing a drink.